Today's episode's brought to you by...
I just don't understand how you just take him out for a fifth-round rookie. He's your starting quarterback. He's thrown 3 interceptions on the entirety. Then in the first half, he throws 5. It just doesn't make any sense.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast.
Blevins, they were in the playoffs. They were in 6th place.
I am your host, the Blevins.
I'm having a little trouble focusing today, everybody, if you haven't noticed.
With me, I think, as always, is Deathblow.
Well, I'm physically here.
Tell us how you really feel, Death.
I'm physically here. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. You paint a little color as to what you're talking about to all the people who have no idea.
Sure, make me relive it. Sounds great. So I'm a long-suffering Buffalo Bills fan, and we were in the playoffs, like sitting in 6th place, ready to make the playoffs, and we just decided for seemingly no reason whatsoever to bench our starting quarterback, put in a rookie that got drafted in the 5th round, which means like 478 million players were taken before him in the draft, and we just got crushed. I mean, legendarily...
by a terrible team too.
Hands down. I mean, not a terrible team, but like it was a winnable game. And just, yeah, it was just brutal. It just hands down the stupidest coaching decision in the Buffalo Bills history. And yeah, I got nothing. I'm dead inside. Talk for an hour, Blevins. Save
Don't mind if I do. But we will preface this with a couple of things, a little bit of housekeeping. As you might be able to tell on the video feed, I have a new mic. And if you're very observant, you will see that it is the same mic that Deathblow has. So we are hoping, fingers crossed, and audio cables crossed, that our lingering audio issues that have literally been haunting us for months and months, if not over a year now, will hopefully be coming to a permanent end. With that being said, we did like 3 sound checks, which is like 2.5 more than we usually do. If anything is wrong, just let us know, because we want to solve this permanently as soon as possible. So, and huge shout outs to everyone who's been commenting on the videos and tweeting at us and letting us know, because honestly, you keep us honest. So that is a good thing. Huge thanks for that. But hopefully everything's fixed, and I'm already feeling good about it. I'm already feeling great about it. But also, another piece of housekeeping. For those of you who follow us on Twitter and all that good stuff, you will see that we're doing a new giveaway. But I know many of you are podcast only listeners, or maybe YouTube only listeners, or maybe SoundCloud only listeners, and you didn't see this. But if you go to twitter.com/highnoonpodcast, you will see the pinned tweet there. That is a link to the giveaway. What are we giving away, you might ask? We're giving away an Overwatch League jersey of your choice. Whatever your favorite team is, or whatever, it doesn't need to be your favorite team, whatever team you want a jersey of, we will be giving you that. And we will also be giving you one of these nifty Overwatch World Cup pins. The video feed can see it. For those of you who can't, it's just like you can just go to the BlizzCon, the Blizzard website, and look at the BlizzCon merch, and you'll see an Overwatch World Cup pin. It's a nifty, it's one of the official Blizzard pins, those like solid ones. So grand prize winner is going to get a jersey and a pin, and then as a runner-up prize, I'll be giving away 1 pin. So 2 pins total will be given away, one to first, 1 to second, and then first place will also get a jersey of their choice. So head over to twitter.com/highnoonpodcast and see the Gleam link there. There's a bunch of ways to enter: Twitter, Twitch, all the YouTube, all those good things, Discord. Basically, you can get entries from following us everywhere and doing all the stuff. So again, twitter.com/highnoonpodcast. Go to the pinned tweet and click the Gleam giveaway link there, and you will be entered to win. Okay, that was a mouthful. So let's move right along into what did we do last week? Death, besides the depressing and soul-crushing loss from the Bills. Anything else fun and exciting for you?
No, I've been. I've
End of
just
the
been
episode. That's it.
right. That's the peak. So we're out. Showmanship and then a high note as always. But no, I've just been spamming Moira. Really regretting turning down teams that I've turned down that I've trialed with because the tryouts are not getting better. They're not all bad, but I think the first one that offered me was the right one, and I didn't take it because I'm an idiot. But anyways, so I'm still doing some trials, and I'm still like I'm filling for them, and the way he's talking, I'm not 100% sure they're as sold on. Like they were trying to get the guy they went with instead of me to like spectate me when he got back, and I was scrimming with them. So I'm hoping it'll work out in the end. But in the meantime,
how those rosters fluctuate anyway. So
yeah, and the fact that like a week after they went with them, they needed a fill kind of says a little bit too. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But in the meantime, just taking some more tryouts and things like that. But also, Blevins, we were guests on the Esports Narrative podcast, an episode that will be airing later in the month. I think after Thanksgiving, the week after.
I think the week after Thanksgiving.
That's what it sounded like. So keep an eye out for that. We'll make sure we tweet it out, everything like that. So you're going to have to be following us in order to get as many chances as possible to win that jersey. So you should be able to catch that pretty easily once it happens.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. Went over all sorts of stuff from how we started as a podcast, how we got into Overwatch, and talking about Overwatch League. So all sorts of we touched on a lot of stuff that we've talked about over the course of many episodes, but it's all condensed into one super episode, and it was really fun to do. So huge shout outs to Tech Spence and the Esports Narrative podcast. Definitely give them a follow as well. For me, so if you guys listened to our episode last week, you know that we did our power rankings as well as the community power rankings. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, go ahead and do that, because it was, from our perspective, it was probably, I'll just say, a top 5 episode in terms of fun for us to record and do and prep for. And a lot of people have said that it's one of their favorite episodes and they really liked it. So this is probably the episode that I will point people to when they're like, oh, which episode should I go back and listen to? Episode 92, the Power Rankings episode. Not only because of what we did, but because of the community involvement that we got. Like, we weren't just like, oh, well, we're two guys talking about stuff and blah, blah, blah. We got a lot. We got, I think,
20-something.
22 other prominent community members. And we listed out the list last episode. I don't have them off the top of my head, so I'm not going to go through them again. But the big names, casters, podcasters, analysts, hosts, all that good stuff. We avoided having people who are directly involved with teams for what should be pretty obvious reasons in terms of picking which team they think is going to be the best. But yeah, it was a super fun episode. But I did a little bit of a write-up for that. So if you're looking for a written version of that, go to the website, highnoonpodcast.com. And check that out. You can also, our good friends over at overwatchscore.com did a supplemental write-up as well. So you can go to the website, overwatchscore.com, and check out, I believe Taco did that one, supplemental community power rankings.
Yeah, discussed his rankings a little bit more specifically and kind of gave his reasoning why he disagreed with the general consensus. Just phenomenal follows. Like, if you enjoyed the episode, I would read both the article that Blevins wrote and that one, as it just builds on it and gives you a little bit more insight into what the individuals were thinking when they did this. But I got to say, Blevins, I really think we might be about to rival that episode right now, as we're going to be. Yeah, we're going to be fantasy drafting free agents that are not on Overwatch League teams in an effort to expand the league by 2 here today. So definitely stay tuned to that if you want to see what myself and the Blevins were able to come up with. And I think we had a tougher challenge than even the first 12 teams had, because the fantasy draft format it changed things a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a lot of fun. But we'll be going through that pick by pick today. So.
Yes, so... but let's get to what's really important first and do Overwatch
Overwatch Today meme of the week.
Of course, we can't move on without our meme of the week, and we had a good one, Death. This one was one you found. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Sure. So this is, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, you will recognize Eleven there with her patented bloody nose and boy's haircut on the screen. It says, when your friends say that the entire team is on the point, so you ult blindly into it and get no kills. This was clearly written by a Hanzo main. And then it's 11 saying, friends don't lie. So a big, sorry for any spoilers if you're still behind on Stranger Things. Nothing to do with the plot. You should.
Yeah, it's not really a spoiler.
No.
Except that 11 exists at some point, and she has a bloody
What?
nose. How dare they? But yeah,
Didn't see it
so
go.
Stranger Things is another favorite, I think, for both of us. So keep the Stranger Things memes coming, man. And of course, you guys can go over to Instagram, go to Game Watch Today, formerly Overwatch Today, because stupid Instagram, stupid garbage. Follow them there, follow them on Twitter, follow all that good stuff everywhere. Always great, high quality memeage. And this is the point in the show for all of you new listeners where we would talk about the tournaments that happen. So let's do that.
And we're done.
And we're done. I'm not even going to cue the sound. There is no tournaments. That's not true. There was a TESPA college tournament, but I'm not looking to jump into the middle of a tournament that we haven't ever followed, and talk about it when it's Overwatch League, man. Like, unless you're Overwatch League or something like crazy, it's not going to happen. But let's move to. Let's just do the draft. We don't have a drop for it.
Yeah, we don't have a drop. I mean, we could just still do the break it down in there if we want, but it's really doesn't matter. And just as a heads up, listen, guys, we're gonna do everything in our power to bring you guys an episode every single week. Next week is I don't know what exactly the travel plans are for the Blevins. It might be iffy. It might not be. Okay, well. We might take one off for the holiday. We might not. We're not sure, but the episodes might be a little shorter. Our apologies. If you have any ideas for any sort of preseason sports content you're used to from any sport in the world, let us know. We're more than happy to adapt it to Overwatch League. It sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we're hoping to kind of bring one of these kind of bits or gags or I don't even know what to call it. But we're going to try to do one segment or one little bit every single week at least for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one, I don't know, I'm a little bit mad at you as a result. I mean, I still think I win,
Why?
right? I still think I did well.
Why are you mad at me?
Because there was a couple I mean, you took some of my guys. You took some of my guys, but
you
that's
took
fine.
At least one of my guys. There's
Good.
one player that I would have put.
There should be about 12 of them you wanted.
Who are you going to pick?
I'm not going to tell you because we haven't even told these phenomenal listeners who's on our team. I'll let you know when we get to them.
That's true. Okay, so so this is what we did. We did. I guess it's technically a snake draft because, but there's only two people, so we went first pick, first player gets first pick, first overall pick. That was me. I won the coin flip. I guess it was a die roll, but I won the quintessential coin flip. So I got first pick overall, and then it went. Deathblow picks 2, I pick 2, Deathblow picks 2, I pick 2, et cetera, until we both had 12 players, and then we also picked a coach, though we thought about the coach after. It was an afterthought. Not to be confused with our coach being Afterthought, a person in our Discord.
And former teammate of mine,
yeah. Yeah, former teammate. Spoiler alert, Afterthought was not one of the coaches. Though I did consider picking Deathblow as my coach.
You should have. It would have helped you a lot. It would have helped you a lot. Yeah.
It would have also made things really weird because you would have been the GM of another team and also coaching.
That means my team would have definitely won.
So we did this as if only a couple real stipulations. It was pretty straightforward. We did this as if we were the GMs of the team. We really weren't thinking about the coaching staff or the supplemental staff until the very end, and it was the kind of thing where, like, we're the GM and we'll pick the coach, and we would let them pick the coaching staff. So we didn't really go into coaching staff. And also, I don't think it actually came up for any of these players, but we're basically it could have happened that if a player were eligible, like if a player was too young now for Overwatch League, we were basically treating these as if they were season 2 expansion teams. But I don't think it came up for any of the players we ended up picking. It was
No, I think we actually just said nobody that's not. If you're not currently 18, we skipped you.
Well, I tried to pick one, but he's actually 16 and not 17. So really,
Oh, gotcha.
I was going to
Yeah, that's
argue
not
for who are you, but I didn't even have any sort of floor to stand on. But anything else before we dive into it?
No, I think that's it. Let's get us started with the first overall pick in
Okay.
our fake little draft.
And the
here.
first, oh, and also, Death didn't really do it, but I'm basically creating this as if it were this is my expansion team that I'm bringing, and I picked the Toronto Tempest because obviously I want a Toronto team, and the Tempest was already made by some fancy graphic designer, so.
And I have no room left in my brain for anything that's not disappointment and despair. So I'm going to be the Buffalo not coached by Sean McDermott's.
Yes, so we
very
already
excited about
we do
that.
have the built-in Toronto Buffalo rivalry
Yes.
that exists pretty much only in hockey. I don't think
Fact.
there's and no, it's not even really a rivalry in lacrosse, but most people don't care about that anyway. But
Fair.
so the first have you ever been to lacrosse? We'll talk about that later. They're awesome. The first overall pick for the the first overall pick for me coming to the Toronto Tempest, to the surprise of very few, was AKM. This is, probably the most talked about. Well, actually, my second player might also be one of the most talked about players coming into Overwatch League. But number one overall, like, I've been a Rogue fanboy for a very long time. Also, AKM is just a phenomenal player. I think it would be silly. Many people, myself included, believe it's kind of silly that he's not already on a team. And yeah, I mean, I think AKM is kind of a no-brainer here.
Yeah, he's a solid DPS player. He's a solid hit scan DPS player. And that means that now that you've made your selection, I get to make the next two.
Yes.
So I says to myself, well, Mr. Blevins over here, he's already got a hit scan DPS player. I don't got to worry about hit scan until like round 12. I can just skip it.
Yeah.
So I started off with Fact Fiction here. To me, he is the best free agent tank by a fairly large margin. Not to discredit any of the other tanks or anything like that, but a lot of them have these very clearly defined, like much better at Reinhardt or much better at Winston. And I really, really value versatility in my roster. I want to be a team that's making substitutions, keeping people guessing. And, even if there's one tricks or what have you on my team, that's fine with me. I want to have all my bases covered, and I want to have backups for all these bases and everything like that. So I really valued the flexibility of Fact Fiction. He can play both Reinhardt. He can play both Winston. And I just think to take anybody else there would have been a significant drop-off. Now, with my second pick, I was a little less certain, and I do really love this player, but I took him for the sheer ability to just have options. Okay, I went with Zappis. I put him in the off-tank flex spot to finish out my tanking core. To me, I mean, we've seen him play support when they were running triple tank, triple support with Ninjas in Pajamas. We've seen him play DPS roles with Tracer, and he's a really, really strong Zarya player. I think one of the better Zaryas out there in the scene overall, not just in free agency. So I think it's another one of those scenarios where it's silly this guy's not on a team, and I decided to pick him up because I felt like I could move him around if I needed to based off of what was left available. But for the time being, at least, let's pencil him in as off-tank flex and look to your second pick, Blevins.
Yeah, so for my second pick, I was going to pick someone who was controversial and talked about a lot in terms of Overwatch League. And my strategy going into the first couple picks was I really want solid, can put the team on their back if need be players. The Taviks, the Surefours, Surefour. I'm blanking on Russian Genji player. Best
Shadowburn?
Shadowburn. I just completely blanked on Shadowburn. Those types of players. I wanted I mean, AKM is already that type of player, but I wanted another one, and when it first came to me, I'm like, oh, this is the perfect pick. And my second pick for the Toronto Tempest is DeFran.
That's me playing sound because I'm thinking like, oh, I've got any hit scan DPS
right.
in the world
Like
I
he
want.
first picked a hit scan DPS player. He certainly he picked one of the top prospect. He's certainly not going to waste his second pick on another one, right?
Right. I mean, so it literally from pick 2, you had me second guessing all my strategic decision making on my first 2 picks. Like I was like, oh, what is he doing? I don't even understand this. This means I can't make plans for like, he's going to fill out his first 6 first. And then you know what I mean? So I felt like my strategy of like, okay, well, if he takes him, then I can scoop up the other positions. Like that was my plan going into it. And then it just did not work out that way. And I just lost all confidence that it was going to work out that way. But yeah, DeFran, I mean, not anybody I would have taken on my team, I think, for the obvious reasons. But I think it's very apparent here that you're valuing, as you said, individual player skill, mechanical skill, the ability to just, everybody else died. There's 3 people left. I got them. Don't worry about this, guys. Those types of players. And there's definitely, by all means, nothing wrong with that strategy. But yeah, so you get 2 picks here, so I don't know why I'm talking yet.
Yeah, well, the other thing about the DeFran thing and the obvious, like, oh, he's locker room cancer or, whatever argument you can make, the Terrell Owens type of argument you could make is, like, give him a second chance, man. Because of all of those things, there's going to be teams that don't want him or just will not touch him, so I probably get him cheaper as the GM. I probably get him cheaper than he's worth from a skill perspective. And B, like, since he came back, like I haven't really heard anything of him being awful. And I also know that I would be able to vet him and make it overwhelmingly apparent that he is going to be watched and that nothing will be tolerated. So, I mean, from that perspective, I'm not super worried about it. Obviously, I'm not actually running a real team, so I can just pretend that he's going to be great. But yeah, I wanted franchise type DPS players, and I wanted them early. So there was that. And then for my third pick, I ended up picking Dogman, because he was on the podcast, obviously.
Hey, we've seen it's good for 1 championship for Fraggy. I don't think there's any reason, the high noon bump wouldn't apply here, so it's
exactly. Fair. But Dogman, they're obviously like supports are one of the just least appreciated in terms of like getting coverage roles. But I've watched enough Dogman streams and I've seen enough of him play and we've talked to him enough that I know that he's a solid support. And what I didn't want was to have weak supports. I didn't want to have these all-star DPS players and then weak supports. So I went with Dogman because I know what he can do. And I also know that he has the confidence and the mind about him to be a team captain type of player. Now, I have a number of other players on here that could also fit that role, but I mean, it's the type of thing where, even if it's like the Little League All-Star team, like everyone that's on that team was an all-star on their respective regular season teams, but someone inevitably, even if they're not necessarily the best player, and even if they're not necessarily a starting player, they bring the team together. They have a good head on them, and they know what they're doing, and they can bring the team together, maybe even in out of game type of situation. So that's why I valued Dogman as high as I did.
All right. Well, this is where I'm pretty upset that you took Dogman from me. I really do think you kind of nailed the most versatile of all the flex supports. He's the one that covers all the bases, the Zen, the Ana, the ability to play Mercy and the Sombra. I think the Sombra was a big part of that pick, or should have been a big part of that pick. Hopefully it was. I think that's kind of he was just the most all-around player here, and because I no longer trust your strategy or have any confidence that you're going to do anything that I can wrap my head around, I snap off and pick Rolf here. So again, you took my dog man. That's what I put in my notes. He took my dog man. Dot dot dot. So I wanted to lock one up here, and I still feel like I probably need an Ana player. I don't know that Rolf is really heads and shoulders going to be the best Ana on an Overwatch League team. Like I think that's an opportunity where you can kind of get somebody else in there. It's definitely in his wheelhouse. But again, he's just I love his Zenyatta play. I think Zen is still going to have a big part in the meta. Rolf obviously plays Ana, so I think in your default setup, like you can get away with that. But I'm really here going to need to be targeting somebody that can play Sombra, and there's not a ton left, so we'll have to see how that plays out for me. But yeah, and if there's anything going on with his Ana, that's one of the heroes Zappos can play. And I'm sure it's really tough, right? Because all the other teams got the chance to like try these guys out, and I could have just been like, "Hey, man, really want to see your Ana, or I really want to see your Sombra," but we don't get those opportunities. So I'm stuck trying to like search my recollection while I'm sitting at work doing this draft. So in my head, I'm thinking like I'm going to need to supplement him, but I think at what he does very, very well. Rolf is just a really strong player, and I feel very, very comfortable with him on Zen. And I wanted to make sure my bases were covered and that I had my dive composition team ready to go. Now, I think I've talked about my strategy in the past for how I would want to build this team. And I really tried to stick to that and follow that through here as I made my selections. So I'm going to opt to stay away from DPS with my next selection. And I'm going to scoop up Adam here. I think Adam is a really underrated player. He's probably the best Mercy in Overwatch League if he was in Overwatch League. I do really believe that he's got to be at least top 2, top 3. Like he's really high up there. And I do think the meta's changing away from Mercy, but she's kind of an iconic character, and I expect them to have like attempt to just nerf her into the ground to get her out of the meta in her unbalanced, unfun state, and then try to get her back in slowly with incremental buffs. So I did not want to completely ignore Ana on my list. And also Adam he's a very viable Lucio. I don't get to see him play enough, especially lately. He hasn't been super, super active in the scene, but we've seen him around a little bit. And I'm just going to throw this out there, something Blevins didn't know at the time. I'm targeting Cruz in this draft. I really, really want to have Cruz on my team. I know
I could have got
you absolutely could have crushed my dreams and ruined my entire draft had you taken him. So I already know that I've got a really solid Lucio player coming up. So even if Adam's Lucio is a drop-off a little bit, I thought I would still have the opportunity to get him. And I thought it was more likely that you take Adam in your next 2 picks than it was that you would take Cruz.
He was, yeah. Adam was one of the players that I did have. Adam was one of the players I did have on my list of like, I'm going to pick him in the next couple of rounds. Like, I literally would have picked him this round. But I ended up, my next, I would have picked him here. So number 4, I picked Gambler, who we found out afterwards may actually be retired, but we're living in fantasy world. So we're going to pretend like he's not.
Yeah. And there was like conflicting reports on it. Certain websites listed him as retired. Others did not. So I don't know exactly what's going on there, but solid choice from you, I think, for sure.
Yeah, so Liquipedia says he's retired, but there's a couple other of sites that said he wasn't, and it's possible he could come back. Like he's 18. Why is he retired? I don't know. Maybe he just got sick of it, or maybe the team wasn't right. It's possible that he just didn't. He just didn't want to play on the team he was playing on, which was Luxury Watch Blue. So I guess I could have consulted with Bare Hands on that, but
weird eating up his time with a fake.
I was trying not to cheat either, but I wanted another solid support. And this was actually before, so I actually changed my strategy. So not only did Death misread my strategy, I also changed my strategy halfway through the draft as well. So
see, that was my fault because I'm over here assuming he had a strategy, and that was
I did have one for some picks. But so I picked Gambler, and honestly, I didn't know a lot about him, but I did I'm not even going to try to overput. I did a very little amount of research on him, but he looks solid. He's played on Luxury Watch Blue, which is obviously a great team. Hashtag ever upward. Excelsior.
Play it.
Oh yes, I do have it.
Excelsior!
Yes, I forgot that I had the drop. Yes, this is gonna be a great season. Look at this team. You're gonna do great. But yeah, so that was basically my thought behind that. I wanted another support, and it literally was going to be Adam, but you picked Adam.
Got him.
So I mean, I have 2 counter picks to your 1 so far. So I'm not that upset about it. And then number 5, I wanted to bring in a main tank. And you know, there's been a lot of talk about Reinforce. But you know, I know him back from the old Misfit days. And even the old Rogue days, and his Reinhardt is just such a good Reinhardt. I think he kind of fell out during the dive comp meta when Reinhardt really wasn't it just wasn't what needed to happen, and he kind of fell out, and then he went into casting a little bit, and then a whole lot of other things happened. But what I do know is that he's a great Reinhardt, and I wanted a main tank that I could have a Reinhardt player for. And, you know, I don't know if he, you know, looking at my roster now, I don't know if he's starting. I honestly, well, I'll talk about the whole look of the roster after. But I wanted to reinforce another team leader, captain type of player that could really bring them together. So I'm not upset with this pick. I'm definitely not as upset as Deathblow is going to be, or is, with my next pick, but we'll talk about that.
I
after.
definitely fully understand that pick completely and think it was a phenomenal choice. But so going forward here, I've got my tanks theoretically set up. If you line zap us up in the off tank flex spot, I've got my supports with Rolf and Adam. So I'm feeling really strong there. It's finally time to address those DPS players. And like Blevins valued with his DPS players, he wanted those guys that could really, really just hard carry, right? So with these 2 picks especially, and maybe that's not even necessarily true because they both have some versatility and flexibility to them for sure. But maybe not the deepest of hero pools. Like I could have chosen players with deeper hero pools. But to start things off, I went with Valu Taja. He's a well-known European player. He's been on Reunited. He's a kind of an old-timey guy, right? Like us old Overwatch guys. Like we've been watching since beta 2.
Yeah.
Him and Artier are the 2 guys that just, to me, they were like the McCrees, right? And being a host of the High Noon podcast, I've always had an eye out for McCrees. Valu also adapted very well to the dive meta, picked up Tracer like a champ, played that at a tier 1 level, I think. So I'm going to take him and pencil him in as my top hit scan player. I don't know that I have my Soldier 76 player on the roster yet, but nonetheless, I've got Valu, and we can try him at Soldier, and I can address that later on in the picks, which I will. So he's gonna lead things off for my DPS crew here. The next pick, I wanted him. You left him for me, and I could not wait any longer. I went ahead and snatched up Cruz, and this is kind of that, like there's some flexibility here, but he's like got the weirdest hero pool on the planet, right? And that's probably part of why he's not here. But I saw that as a huge asset, right? Like he's a phenomenal Genji player. We've seen him play it. We know he loves to play it. I really think I would get absolutely 100% effort from Cruz if I signed him up to be my Genji player. And I think he's very very up to the task of playing a tier 1 projectile DPS player. So that's where I pencil him in. And in the end, if Adam's struggling on Lucio, I can always bring Cruz in to play Lucio. I do believe Cruz has been an IGL in the past as well, so I know I'm adding that to my team. So that's great to have as well. And he just kind of gives me some flexibility, right? He's one of those guys where you can put him on your 6 and you can not know who's going to play what going into it, right? Because he could be support, he could be DPS. You can't tell me. So I've got Zappis,
the
and I've got
hook.
Right, right. I've got Zappis on my team and I've got Cruz on my team. So good luck figuring out what we're gonna do before you can press tab and find out from looking in game. So I really liked that aspect of it and I valued that a lot. So Cruz was somebody that was high on my list here. I targeted him. I waited on him. I didn't want to overpay for him in my draft picks, and I think I got him at a steal here.
For sure. Speaking of steals, actually, there's no. I'm just gonna say it because I know you're gonna have more to say about it than me. I wanted so there's two old timer picks here that it could have. Well, this number 6 spot was going to an old timer here. It was going to. I wanted a player who could be a Roadhog specialist. I just wanted that on my team. I wanted a spectacular Roadhog. So you know who I picked? It was between. I was either going to pick Himsey, who has been one of the best Roadhogs ever, or it ended up being Harblue, another great Roadhog player. And I know you have more to say against this pick than I have to say for it, so go for it.
Well, I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with a little Harblue action. There's no shortage of hype that comes, like when Harblue's out there, right? And he picks Roadhog and he sneaks I don't know how he does it. Fattest character on the field.
Yeah.
Sneaks in behind the team, right? Like every time I think of Harblue, I think of him hanging out in stage 2 of Hollywood while his team is still attacking stage 1. Okay, he's just like living back there, hanging out on his own. And the team gets a pick, gets a kill, and then Harblue just spawn camps the guy. Just hook, kill. Hook. Oh, you got 2. Great. Hook, kill.
Yeah.
If I stagger him, I can just have it on cooldown and do it every time. And so he's a hype player. And I think since your team is so bad, that's going to be really important because you're going to need to build hype. And
my team is pretty great.
I had to take my shot. But no, I mean, he's a good Roadhog. But again, you're valuing very different. And I think this went great just from the sake of we valued very different things when picking these players. There was not a ton of overlap. It would have been a lot of fun if we were fighting each other over every single player and really mad. But at the same time, we really showcased different ways to build rosters here. So Harblue had no place on my roster whatsoever. Could not have possibly fit. But I do get him on your spot. I just think you could have taken him at 11 or 12.
Yeah, I could have. And I think, this is the other piece that I maybe probably should have mentioned at the beginning is that Death and I both did this like in between our real jobs.
Work phone calls, yeah.
So, it's possible. I mean, I think if we would have, we really didn't even necessarily plan to do this until only a few days ago either. So like if we would have, done weeks of research on it and done all the stuff that you would do for a normal like fantasy football or fantasy baseball type of thing. Yeah, sure. Maybe we would have had more succinct strategies, but I think it was pretty sweet off the cuff. Let's just do this over Discord at work, boom, and do it. But so that was my number 6 pick. My number 7 pick was one who I was actually a little bit worried. So I needed to get my franchise player, my defranchise players off the bat. That was what I wanted. I wanted the LeBron James. I wanted the Steph Curry, the Kyrie Irving players. I wanted those at the beginning because even if I had weak other players, I could get role players that were going to be fine. And honestly, like I can build the team around the AKM Defran combo and let, even if we don't work out this season, like it could be a building season, find other players, do some trades. So I really wasn't worried about picking up other DPSs, but I've been talking so much about Mangachu being a top prospect that it would have been crazy if I didn't pick him. So I got him at number 7. Mangachu has really shown himself he's also a diverse he's shown himself as a diverse player. Obviously, I want to see him on Pharah as much as possible. But it's possible the meta is not like moving forward with the Mercy nerf. We might not see, as much Pharah Mercy as we have in the past. In which case, like I have plenty of other players to play, and I have other roles that Mangachu could possibly take. Another in-game leader type of player. I knew when I was building the team, I definitely wanted him. I pushed how far I could wait to get him.
Yeah, I think it was smart too. If you'd taken him any sooner, it wouldn't have put any pressure on me. Like if you switch him
Yeah.
for Dogman, I think I just get too much value there.
Yeah.
So it was about right. The meta is going to have to shift, I think, like you said, to really bring Mangachu out. But with that said, we've been talking for a long time about how it drives us nuts to see
Yeah.
teams with a player like Mangachu and the heroes that he can play when they're in the meta, that they're just not like forcing it, right? Like there's nothing that says you can't just play on every single point. You can't just play a dive comp with a Pharah, right? Like, and if
Yeah.
Mangachu's on your team, that just seems to make sense to me. So I would
Mhm.
be very excited to see him get in a spot where that's all he has to do. That's all he has to worry about. That's all he has to work on, is just be the absolute best Pharah and the best Hanzo that you can possibly be, and you just go from there, and he's obviously a well-known Torb lover.
Mhm.
So, you can bring him in for any defenses like that. Like, I mean, it's not even super off meta right now. It just depends on where you are. So,
Right.
and a home team guy, you knew this was a Toronto team and you
Yep.
built it, so that had to weigh in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's also been on the podcast, so obviously I'm showing for when I am the GM of a team. I'm just saying, players, you probably want to come on the show if you want to get on the if you want to get on my
If you
team.
want that contract,
Definitely going to be a boon.
for
And
the low cost of 1 hour interview.
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But no, I think I got him right in the middle of the draft. I don't know how much he fits into your game plan, but I know that if nothing else, you would hate pick a Mangachu just so I couldn't get him if I waited too long.
If you waited too long, that most definitely would have happened, because I do want to have those niche picks. Like right now, looking
Yeah.
at my team, I don't have that Hanzo specialist, and Hanzo's a hero that I honestly think has a spot in this game at some point. I just don't think the meta's shifted to it correctly. I think it would be a mistake to completely ignore it. So I can definitely see that here. But personally, going into my next pick, I didn't have enough Finns on my team, so I decided to pick up one more here. I'm gonna draft Sieni. Um, I've got Zappas in the off tank spot, and I'm sure he can play Diva, but he's not known for it, and I wasn't 100% sure that he could. I know I've seen Sieni play it a bunch, and it's in his hero pool. He's also got those, he's got the Widowmaker. He can serve as my McCree backup. He plays Genji as well. He's a really, really, really strong flex player, and I just wanted to scoop him up. I think he's another one of those underrated guys that doesn't quite get all the credit he deserves. And I thought he could really do a good job with his flexibility, shoring up my roster. But I said he has the ability to go to those hit scanny Widowmakers and McCrees, and as much as I'd let him do it, I wanted to get another one of those guys that really, really specialized in hit scan. So my next pick here is going to be Saya, player from Korea, off the Meta Athena roster. They've been known to have a lot of crazy compositions and strategies, and I bring that into my team now. I bring all those strats in. I get them into my game plan. So I like it from that vantage point as well. And we've just seen him be a really high level, really, really good hit scan player. And with Valu not necessarily having the deepest of hero pools, I really thought Saya was a really strong complement to have on my bench. Depending on the meta shifting, I could see switching who's starting and who's on my bench at any given time based off the meta, based off team cohesion, things like that. So I don't think there would be much of a drop off if I needed to sub this guy in, and it felt like a no-brainer pick to me.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of player. Your team was also lacking Korean players, man. Like, come on.
It feels like it would be racist to pick them because they're Korean.
That's true, but it's not racist to pick them because they're really good. And there you have it. That's what you did. So going into my 8th and 9th pick, my first pick, again, High Noon Podcast bump. But so I went with
Stop pointing it out. It makes your team look so bad.
No, it makes my team look so great because how many players on your team, Death, do you unequivocally have the best player of one hero in the world? Like unequivocally, very few arguments made.
I think the same number that you do.
No, I've got Leaf, the Doomfist God.
Sorry, I picked a different Doomfist, so I can't necessarily agree with you anymore.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm very biased towards my guys.
Well, look back at the episode where we interviewed Leaf, and Death says on camera that he is the best Doomfist player in the world.
What do you mean? That's not out there in like 4 different episodes.
Not only does he say that, he corrects me when I say arguably the best Doomfist player in the world. And you say, no, it absolutely is. Okay. So
I don't recall.
I literally have the episode queued. If I had the episode queued, that would be hilarious, but I don't.
Well, I guess we can't prove it.
Picked up Leaf. No, he's actually French. He's not Canadian. But I mean, just a Doomfist specialist, like through and through. Best
Viable
Doomfist in the world.
Too. We've seen that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you went the route of like, I want all my players to be very flexible, and you had a couple of less flexible players, but I want my superstars, I want my solid supports, and then I want specialists. And then, my next pick will kind of start to reveal what the rest of my strategy was.
I picked up on very, very quickly.
Yeah, well, I was trying to run away with it, but
I let you too.
Yeah, I know you did. I was really sweating it, although I did.
Despite the top meme, because it's a top meme. It's my meme.
It is
I'm
your
the old
meme.
Man, I'm the dad here. I've got to make the most obvious jokes, but you ran away with the draft.
I did run away with the draft, but I did set it up so that if you tried to like throw away your last picks, I was still fine. But yeah, so Leaf at number 8, my Doomfist specialist, also a Genji player. Like, and when we talked to him, like he, mentioned that he plays other heroes. He's just not. I mean, he's not the best in the world at other heroes. Although he did put out a tweet that said, when a recruiter was asking him, "What do you play when you're not playing Doomfist?" and he said, "Rocket League." So. So gotta love it.
Shout outs to Rocket League first of all. And
I picked that up on I was like not that into it on PC, but I played on the Switch and I'm all in, man. Like, and my girlfriend likes the game. Like, boom, perfect.
It is so much fun.
It is great. But my number 9 pick was Kaiser, who played. He played for Runaway, and then I believe he like moved to the C9 squad for a hot minute, and then he was subbing for Runaway. I don't know the exact logistics of it, because again, we don't keep a fine-tuned eye on all the goings on in Korea, but I mean, I'll just say it now. I wanted a core of a team, because just looking at the power rankings, I mean, they are what they are. They're an educated guess, but the power rankings teams, or the community at large, is not valuing the Junkenstein's monster rosters, which is what we're building. Like, literally, that's all that we're building. I mean, we both could have, I guess, just picked up rosters. Like, I could have picked up Rogue, and you could have picked up, whichever team.
So exciting for all of the listeners.
It would have been awful. It would have been awful, and it was not going to be fun. And honestly, I didn't think about it until it was too late. But it was much more fun to do it this way. But the community's not valuing the Junkenstein's monster, so I did want a core of players from one team, and that's what I started here with Kaiser.
All right, and moving forward with me, again, I've talked about how I feel like I need to have at least my backup Anna, right? Like, there's a decent chance I have my Anna on the roster, and this is a guy that we haven't seen around necessarily a ton lately, but he was heads and shoulders, I thought, in the LAN environment, and I'm blanking on the name of the actual tournament where he played, but I went with Hidan here. He's the old Misfits roster. He's one of the few guys that when you look at on the free agency list, you look at him and you go, man, that guy's got a proven record on LAN.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has been successful in LAN, and this was the Overwatch Open, I believe. Where Misfits took down Envious 3-1 in the finals there. Hidan was on that roster. His Anna was a very, very big part of it. He's known to play Mercy as well, and I'll let Adam handle that in almost every likelihood. It's another one of those areas where I really value. I want to be too deep at every single position, if at all possible. And with one or two small exceptions, and even then, I'm not super comfortable with it. I'm just kind of half willing to do it. And Hadan, I thought he might be in the running for guys that can say, hey, go, I need you to learn Sombra, go figure it out, right? And he's going to have the ability to do that, and I really valued the LAN experience with this. So I went with Hadan for the next pick to round out my flex supports here. And my next pick, things get very, very flexy from here on out for me. And I actually decided to scoop up gods. I don't have super deep backups in my tanks. Like, I have guys that can cover gaps in other people's hero pools, at least as I perceive them, their hero pools to be. And Gods is one of those guys where we've seen him play so many different roles. He's been Genji. If let's say I've got to move Cruz to Lucio, I can play Gods on Genji. I've seen Gods play a decent amount of Junkrat in the past. It's not a hero that I really thought I had covered or had figured out yet. So it was important to me to pick somebody that could play Junkrat well and has done it. And also we've seen Gods play Winston. I remember very specifically at the end of his kind of playing time with it was C9. I just remember thinking that it looked like his tank play had gotten a lot better. So I thought he was a guy that I could use in the projectile DPS or in the off tank spot, however I see fit. Can kind of shake things up a little bit. And I think especially when you were building these Junkenstein's monsters of teams and combining everybody together, that flexibility is super important, because any one of these combinations of 6 people might click and might really look like your best bet or your best group at any given time. And I think it changes a lot too. So that's really one of the main reasons I did value that versatility and that flexibility in the hero pools. And so I went with Gods here. He's kind of my backup main tank, my backup off tank, my backup projectile. He does a little bit of everything. So that's where I'm going to sit for now with 2 more spots left to go.
Yeah. So for my 10 and 11, it's pretty straightforward. I picked the 2 supports from Runaway. That's it. So right now, obviously, my strategy closing out my roster has been firmly secured. So I've got my franchise DPS players. I've got solid other supports. I've got some flex player or some specialists, and then I'm going to have 4. I'm going to have the tank and support core from Runaway. And those are Bumper and Cox. So, honestly, I don't know how I would build this roster. Like, I don't know how you pick the starting 6 for game 1 or for opening day. I really don't. Is it AKM Defran and then Runaway? Is it no Runaway? I don't know. I would really, it's a type of thing where I think it would really have to be, this is such a ragtag group of people. I think it would really have to kind of come from the players and the coaching staff for this.
Yeah, you'd be mixing and matching a lot, very similar to what I would be doing. You'd be mixing and matching a lot, probably more in game than I would, I think, right? Like I have more flexibility within my individual players. Like you'd probably be much heavier in the substitutions and things like that. But so you might be one of the only teams in the league that had like a starting 8 instead of a starting 6, where there was a really even distribution of playing time. And as a future fantasy Overwatch player, I hate you for it, but it doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah. For sure. And I mean, I guess just so that the numbers work out, my last pick was the flex tank for Runaway, which is Janu. But really, really that was my thought process behind the last 4 was I want Runaway's core. And I've got I could have, theoretically picked up the entire Runaway roster, but we already talked about how that's really not fun for us, and it's not fun for you as a listener. It's like, okay, here are our 2 rosters. It's Rogue versus Runaway. Okay, 5-second segment where we just recolored everything. No, we wanted to build these out, and I wanted my franchise DPS players potentially to play with the Runaway core. That's what I wanted. I'm the GM. I own the team. I'm also the team owner. And
honestly, I think it's a relatively smart way to go about building a team. I mean, individual picks aside, there's some differences I would have made, but you have your your headliners, your hard carries, your guys
Mm-hmm.
that are just individually very, very skilled,
And
and
jersey
maybe
sellers.
lack in that, have jersey sales, and maybe lack in that, the team synergy
Mm-hmm.
aspect of things. But you brought in a core that can kind of teach it to them and
Mm-hmm.
lead by example, and if need be, comprise most of the people of the 6 on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and you can put them out there to really drive the ship and just let the gunners do what they're going to do. I
Right.
think it definitely has a good opportunity to work for you. And overall, jokes aside, I think you did a pretty bang up job there. To wrap up my team, again, I talked about how I need the best Doomfist in the world, so I went out and I got him.
You bought you bought my 8th pick for me. What?
No, I just took Jaru. I just took the best Doomfist. Listen, I wanted to really
Jarhu. Got him.
Jaru.
Got him.
Jaru.
Got him.
But no, Jaru's one that we've seen. We know, he was on Envision. He played when the meta was heavy into Doomfist. He was the guy that did it. He's also a guy that's really versatile across the DPS spectrum, right? So I view him more as kind of like a dive specialist. I'm not 100% sure where I'd put him in a what's it called, in a death ball meta or a death ball composition, but I know I can put him on Genji or Tracer or Doomfist, and I can put him wherever I need him in dive on the DPS side of things. Probably, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't think I would be starting him, but again, it's a ragtag team, whoever works best together is who I'm going to go with. So he would have a puncher's chance at that. And with my last pick, again, I'm not sure. I mean, if I haven't told you guys, I really value flexibility. So I went with the Russian Unfixed. Listen, he plays Soldier, he plays Diva, he's been on top tier teams, reunited into E United. He was on Fnatic way back when. He's a really solid player. He's got some good finishes. Season 0 of Overwatch Contenders, E United won that. So he's got some LAN. Was that on LAN? I can never remember. Anyways, he's got some championship pedigree to him. If nothing else, I know the E United guys know how to go out there and get second place, so I'm not going to do too bad. But yeah, so he's where I went with. I thought he was just a really solid all-around player. At this point, I thought anybody that I wanted to get or anybody that I needed to go out and get, as far as hero-wise, any holes I needed filled, the only one that I see being a potential problem is Sombra. And when nobody is really dedicated to Sombra in the pool, and I don't think there's one out there, I can't think of a better plan than to go out and just get the most flexible players humanly possible. Allow one of them to really sit down and learn it and figure it out and shore up my 2 CP game, so that way I can have my Sombra there, and he's going to wrap things out. And then I might as well just go ahead and tell you my coach here as well. It's already kind of been announced, but a lot of these players have kind of decided to group up, right? Valutaja, Cruz, Christopher are all going to be playing in a contenders team, and their coach is going to be Morte. And I really wanted to get a coach that was a coach, somebody that had declared interest in coaching here. So I went ahead and grabbed Morte, since he was one of the only guys on the list I knew for sure was looking that coaching route and would be very open to it if he was offered it. I don't know why I put so much thought into the coach, but I did. And I just think he's already got a rapport with some of my guys. So it seemed to make a lot of sense to me to go out there and get him.
Yeah, so I went a little bit of a different route. So obviously this is fake fantasy land, so even if they're a player, we can pretend that I persuaded them to be a coach. So I went with Christopher here. Because he's been on the show. But honestly, like, his confidence and swagger and just the, like, no matter what the odds are, I don't care, we're gonna be awesome, in a good way, not a overlooking the competition type of way, but like a positive, super confident, if not cocky, attitude. It's what I want from the person that's going to be leading the team, that's going to be at the helm of the squad. I don't want someone who's going to be like, okay, guys, well, what should we do? And, well, the other team did okay. And, yeah, you guys were good. I want someone who's going to actually take the helm, is going to have, like, even if, that type of, I think that type of outlook on it is good, but even if it's not, like, as long as you have a strong stance and you can get the team to follow you, and he is the type of player where I think the players would rally behind him in that message, and if nothing else, it's going to be positive, and they're all going to be on the same boat, or in the same boat with that message.
Makes a ton of sense. He's a known shot caller in the game, which is rare from a main tank perspective, at least depending on the type of shot calling. So we know he's got that kind of macro game planning ability. We know he's worked with rosters on short notice, captain of the UK team, got thrown into Envision during their contenders run.
Yeah.
And oversaw, a big victory against Rogue in the opening week, which prompted us to bring him in. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm really happy we were able to include him. He was kind of the guy, like, when I look at my roster, I go, man, I don't know. I don't have a backup for Fact Fiction. Like, I don't think Gods really fills in if I need a Reinhardt. Like, I think there's a drop off there. So Christopher was one I really wanted, and I was really debating him or Unfixed for the final spot, but I went the way I did, and I was really glad you picked him for coaching, because I thought he deserved a spot on one of these lists, and we just couldn't quite fit him in. But
yeah, I definitely could have, and I almost did swap him for Reinforce. Like, I could easily see Reinforce being the coach here and Christopher
100%.
playing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And real fast, we give so many shout outs to the guy, and I want everybody to know we tried to bring A. Smith in this week. We really wanted him to come in and join the show. He had some engagements.
One person he couldn't book
right?
was himself.
Rip dreams. But, we thought it would be a little bit more of a fun exercise if there were 3 people here kind of giving teams. It would have made the snake structure of the draft look a little better. But he went ahead and made himself a team based entirely off of the leavings of not only the league itself, but our teams. Like, he let us draft our teams and then picked.
This was like the 3rd expansion team that, like, paid their bill too late and only got the scraps. They weren't allowed to partake in the draft.
Right. And I think he did a really, really good job here. And he keeps a closer eye on the Korean scene than we do. But I'm just going to read his list down. He's got Stitch at DPS. He's got Mauzasa at tank. He's got Gray and support. I'm so sorry for butchering this name. Yang Zhao LG. I don't know. Then we've got Zufan Jun. Maybe it's right. He's got him on support. He's got Fire on support. He's got 2 guys here on DPS I really, really wanted, and I tried to fit, but I was so narrowed in on Cruz, I couldn't justify it. He got Atar on DPS. If you saw the World Cup and you saw Australia scare the crap out of Canada, Atar was a big, big part of that, so a great pickup there. Tailspin on DPS as well. Another one of those kind of, maybe not Pharah only guys, but yeah, an old timer, a really well-known specialist. He's got Train on flex, Tonic on tank, Void on tank, and Zoms on flex. And Zoms was another one I really, really wanted. A very flexible player too. I probably should have found a way to get him in there, but nonetheless, there's so much talent left over. This exercise got me so pumped up for contenders. I can't even see straight. The Overwatch tier 2 scene is going to be alive and well. I'm very convinced of that, and I feel very confident that when we do see expansions into the Overwatch League, we're not just going to see. I mean, maybe the current expansion team, the Las Vegas Golden Knights is a bad example, because last I knew they were doing pretty well in their opening season. Good. But a lot of times with expansion teams, you expect to see 2 or 3 seasons before they can really start to catch up and compete. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. I mean, they might not be able to get into the top 3 or the top 4 in their first couple of stages, but I don't see any reason why a team can't come in season 2. Yeah, whatever. You and your Harblue.
Hey, he's gonna be great.
He is right. And the coaches for A. Smith, though, were Runner and Rafflegator. He went ahead and grabbed 2 of them. Rafflegator's a phenomenal choice for coach and would have been mine. I just haven't seen him around in so long.
I honestly forgot he existed.
Yeah, I'm just not sure he's interested in Overwatch coaching anymore. But if he is, he's a phenomenal coach and a great find there. So really good stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. This was super fun for me. And so a couple of things with this. Oh, so here's one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning. Although I kind of mentioned it, but maybe some people weren't listening as much as they should have been. One person that is missing here is Flower. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Flower, I did try to snap first pick him, but it got vetoed. So he's not old enough to play now. And then I was like, oh, but this is going to be a season 2 team. And then Death brought up the good point that if it's season 2, he's already going to be on New York. So that's why you don't see Flower on either.
Yeah, like he's moving to New York. I don't know the whole. I mean, I just think it's got to just be a declared preference from him. Like, nope, that's where I'm going. I'm going there. They already have a spot for me. It's just waiting for me to be old enough. That's really what I think happened there. So yeah, we excluded him. We excluded guys like Shatter. I didn't take anybody that wasn't 18 right now.
Yeah. Who Are You was also. I mean, Who Are You is going to be too young for season 2.
Right.
Unfortunately, so, I was ready to get on my soapbox and make an argument to pick him, but then I looked. I'm like, wait, he's born in 2001. That meant, oh God, why is he so young? Why am I so old? Oh, and I threw up at work. It was awful.
That'll happen.
I did a good old depression vomit.
Understandable.
Yeah, but so couple of things. Let us know what you thought about this. I know that Death and I and A. Smith as well had a lot of fun doing it. Let us know what you thought about the segment as a whole.
Who wins? Who's got the best team?
Yeah.
Who would finish first?
Yeah,
not
first
among the three of us. Me, Blevins, and A. Smith. Who got the
finishes? Okay, so maybe not like team versus team, but who finishes higher in the standings if these are the 3 teams that were added in season 2? Who finishes highest in the standings? My team, obviously, greatest team, or the other teams. Oh, and by the way, A. Smith did go ahead and choose his team name and place and location. He picked the Memphis Mustangs, which I got to say,
also not coached by Sean McDermott.
Yeah,
big plus.
I got to say it's a pretty cool name though. I mean, we've got the 2 Texas teams. Do we really need a Tennessee team? I don't know. But I just want more East Coast teams, really.
Right, yeah. Northeast, please
like
help
as
us.
Close, like the colder and norther that they could be. Like I'll even take a Seattle team just because it's north. But yeah, who won? So let us know what you thought about the segment. Who won? And if you guys want to have some fun with it, build your own team. Feel free to, you can either use players that we've already picked. Just pick your top 12, your 12 Overwatch League team. If you want to face it off against us, don't override our picks. But if you want to just pick a team out of free agents, like who would you build? And we can compare, contrast, see who you picked that was the same and who was different. However you want to do it, tweet at us at High Noon Podcast on Twitter, or you can email it to us, highnoonpodcast@gmail.com.
Or join Discord and get the
Discord
public at large of our community.
That is a good point, Death. Let's just do it in Discord. We will make a text channel where you can post your lists. By the time you hear this, it will be up. So head over to you can go to any of our links.
Go to highnoonpodcast.com.
Yeah, go to
highnoonpodcast.com.
Find the Discord link there. Someday we'll have a fancy link, but stupid Discord.
We need you guys to join so we can get the fancy link, because apparently we don't meet the Discord partner requirements yet. Which I gotta say just means they didn't even look at our Discord or how awesome it is.
No, they didn't. Scrubs is all I have to say about that. Not as big as Scrubs as Instagram, but still Scrubs. So let's move on, and we had a couple of things to talk about, so let's break it down. We'll break it down. I'm just going to mention the fact that there was an AMA by Hastro, who is the owner of the Dallas Fuel. I looked over it, and there's some interesting stuff in there, but nothing like overwhelmingly nothing really overwhelmingly new or interesting, I don't think.
Super, super fun read if you are a Dallas
Yeah.
Fuel fan. A solid read, even if you're not. I don't want to act like it's only for them. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great insight into a lot of the thought processes and things like that that went into the team and building that team. You know, they talk a little bit about, how they signed Siegel, things like that, what their plans are for the tier 2 scene. I don't want to spoil anything, so you guys can check that out. There's links in the show notes for that.
Yeah, but nothing like super like
Oh,
leaky or anything.
one thing I will say, I'm actually a fan of the Philadelphia Fusion. I'm going to omit a word out of that and just leave it at that, right? I'm going to take the last word out and just say he said positive things. A Dallas owner said a positive thing about a Philadelphia team. I never thought I'd see the day.
Is there some
Never
sort
thought
of
I'd see the
taboo
day.
behind that? Is that like a football thing or?
Oh, they hate each other so bad. It was on display last night. Yeah, I don't know that there's many bigger rivalries than Philly and Dallas in the NFL. So any football fans, I might have just like set them off a little bit, but that was 100% my intention. Houston is more than happy to bring you in as a fan.
Interesting. I did not know that. Okay, but moving on. So we saw some drama with XQC. Got a 3-day ban for, I think the quote was he was abusing the reporting system.
Yeah, I actually saw a VOD of what happened, and it was, I mean, he's using obscenities when he's streaming and he's filling out these reports. He just seemed to be filling them out about like the entire team, right? So like I don't know how worthwhile they were. I didn't see the game or the event or what led him up to this, but an overreaction. And I'll say this: if you don't like him, you'd probably like to see the look on his face when the goes back to the log-on screen and tells him he's been banned. It looks like he got shot in the gut. I felt bad for the guy because I don't dislike him, despite the fact that I had concerns about things exactly like this. And listen, we've talked about it. Does he have the ability to shut this behavior off when he gets into the team environment? And I'm not sure that it matters if you can't keep it at at least a decent, solid, respectable level here. And just keep a decent amount of professionalism, whether you're streaming, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your persona used to be. You're a professional Overwatch player now, and you have to act like a professional especially when you're in public and on Twitch and streaming. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and act like he's a bad guy or he's the devil or anything he did was too terrible. And I don't want to get crazy negative, but I'm going to do a little I told you so here, because this is exactly what I was worried about. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you need your guys to not do. They need to understand inherently that you can't just do this. And I think Nate Nanzer put out a tweet, and it was, he's going on vacation, so there was a little bit of a like to it, but it's just nobody expects all role models. Everyone expects all grown-up professional adults was the way he worded it. And it's 100% accurate. I can't agree with him anymore if I tried. You don't have to be somebody that people look up to. You just have to not be somebody that people look down on. And that's, that's the line to walk when you're a meme lord and you're a character on your stream. And it's difficult, but you represent a brand now. You represent something bigger than the brand. You represent the league itself. Everybody talks about representing the shield in the NFL. Well, you represent the shield in the Overwatch league too, that tracer outline, running shield, whatever it is, the symbol, the logo. You have to wear that, and you are always wearing that, whether it's on your clothing or not. And he seems to have forgotten that. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any Overwatch league punishments to it. But one thing I'll add is, a lot of these teams aren't in facility yet. Like a lot of them haven't moved to the United States yet. And this one has, and he doesn't have that far to move. I don't know that he has moved yet, but let's say even if he has, we don't know for sure that these guys have the esports client to scrim on. Right. That might not be the case. And they will once the season goes live, because they'll want to stay on whatever patch we're playing on for that stage or however that is all going to work. We don't 100% know yet. But I don't know that they have it right now, so I don't know that this guy can show up to practice and scrim with his team, right? He's going to have to, like, break another rule to borrow somebody's account. And it's a scrim. Nobody's going to tell on him, so he's probably able to do it. But it creates questions now that if the AMA from the owner would have been a couple days later, you could have counted on 17 questions about this, and it's a distraction that the team doesn't need. They need to just focus on winning, and they need to focus on incorporating this player into their schemes and into their play style. And right now, he's he's hurting that, and he's not helping that right now. And I don't know that it means anything going forward, but it just tells me that everybody in our Discord that wanted to tell me, oh, he's reformed, he's not that guy, it's only on camera. It's bad enough, right? Like we're already the proof is in the pudding here.
Doesn't matter.
He's been banned, and I don't know that he can show up to scrims right now. So he's definitely not helping. He probably can get to scrims. It's probably not a huge detriment. But if it's anything that repeats, I think you can count on action from Envious about it. I don't think they're going to sit around and just let this kind of thing continue.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I think what he did is really not super bad when you just look at it in a vacuum. The problem
I don't think he's a bad guy over
No,
here.
I don't think he's a bad guy at all. The problem is that Blizzard knows that that toxicity and specifically the reporting system is something that people worry about in Overwatch, not necessarily at the pro level, but to an extent. But like people playing ladder, people playing competitive, people playing casual worry about the reporting system and worry about toxicity. When you have someone who's representing the game, who's representing the esport, who's representing what esports could be, abusing a system that Blizzard is working very closely with and wanting to promote, they have to do something. I think that a 3-day ban that they can probably get around and that the team is probably working with getting around. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Fuel messaged Blizzard and was like, hey, we need him to scrim, and they're just like, yeah, we really just need, this is just for publicity, like he can play, like he can't stream on that account, like publicly he needs to be banned, but you can do everything you need to from the team level. I would not be surprised if that was the case, because I don't think they want to do they don't want to do damage to him, but they need the example to be made and the message to be sent, because right now that's what they're relying on in terms of combating toxicity, which is what a lot of people worry about. I think that there are people that probably do worse things than that, but they're not celebrity and they're not doing it on stream, so they probably don't get banned. And the other thing is, like, I agree 100%. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, maybe in the locker room, quote unquote, and in game, he's great, he's reformed, or he's just not as toxic on stream. I agree with you. Doesn't matter. Like, he is, his public facing, persona is what people see, and it doesn't matter because not everyone knows, like, oh, it's just a character. It's not even like as much as like he's not like Dr. Disrespect that's literally a character that's wearing a wig and like is very clearly a character. Like, if XQC is a quote unquote character, it's not like he's playing it off as a character. It's just he's playing it off as that's how he actually is, but maybe he's not actually like that. That's almost like there's a distinction there. But it doesn't matter because, like, professional athletes, like, they obviously have to be professional on the court and in the locker room, but they can't go out and just, run around and masquerade and do whatever outside.
They get suspended for things they do at bars, and
they get in way more trouble outside of that. So, like, yeah, it really needs to follow suit. I'm glad that Blizzard did something. I think that it was probably, like I said, for show, and hopefully the message got through, and hopefully, like, it gets through not only to, like, people who are trolling and doing stuff like that, but I hope it gets through to, like, the Overwatch League players that, A, like, you're not invincible. Like, I don't know if people thought that, but, like, you're not invincible, and B, like, you need to be professional. Don't act like kids, please, because you're getting paid real money. You're representing a lot of people, and you're representing a very important and pivotal time in esports history. Not even just Overwatch, esports. And there's a lot of people that have a lot riding on you at all times. And, like, I know it's probably a little bit daunting when people realize that and think about that, but, like, that's where you're at. It's not going to change. So don't be kids. Yeah. Don't act like kids.
Do we want to hit a shame bell real quick?
We sure do.
Shame.
Oh, the shame of the week.
Shame it.
Shame.
There it is.
Shame and jokes aside, XQC's not going to be the last. He was the first, but he won't be the last person to have an incident like this. And in the grand scheme of things, I, I don't, this is going to sound bad, but like it kind of happened to the right player, right? Because it's somebody we like expected it of. It's not anybody that it was a surprise. You're not like wondering, you're not adding questions. These are questions we already had. And I don't think my evaluation of XQC as a player and as a fit on the roster is not going to change. Like I think this was as low impact as it could be while still having the profile to set that standard and set the, teach the lesson. But with that said, it's never the last time. Somebody's going to do something stupid. Somebody's going to catch a couple day ban.
DeFran on my team probably going to get banned.
Right, it's a very high likelihood. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. And I think it's going to be curious to see if and when this happens in the middle of the season. Right, like these guys are going to have way less time to stream and do that stuff during the season. Right. But I'm very curious to see what happens when this kind of stuff comes up in season. And I'm very curious to know if there was any conflict. Like it kind of brings it to the forefront an issue that was going to come up eventually and lets us try to analyze how it was handled and get a kind of a practice for, I guess, the preseason for everybody, including the commissioner and the suspensions and all that stuff. So the right way for it to happen, if it had to happen, it's a shame it did have to happen at all, but we're kind of giving like a lecture a little bit, but it's not really changing anything here. It's a low impact incident. It's just one that needs to be talked about, and hopefully players can learn from it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the same vein, but we won't go nearly as deep into it, is we saw, oh God, I forgot his name.
I can't remember his name either, but he's a one-trick Symmetra main.
The
and
same one that's been at the forefront of all the one-trick discussions. And he's also done the bronze to grandmaster runs as well.
Gotcha. But yeah, he caught himself a ban just for the sake of getting constant poor teammate reports. And I think that really sets a standard. And I think this is another one of those cases where this was done to a public player, one that people know, one that people would feel the impact of. And this should reverberate down the ladder here. Everybody should feel this. Like, you don't just get to lock up. Like, now, no longer are the days where they're not going to ban me for not playing the hero you wanted me to play. Like, if it's unanimous across the entire community and everybody that plays against you that what you're doing makes no sense, that your goal when you queue competitive is not to win, it's to just do whatever you want and let your teammates be damned, that's not okay. This is their effort to fix. Like, we joke around a lot about how toxic and how bad the competitive experience it is. And we joke around about it because it's true. But now's the time to stop joking here, guys. Like, if you're playing in comp and you're like, well, it's bad, everybody won tricks anyways, I'm just going to do it. Now's the time to stop. Because if they're making this effort and this push to fix it, you need to make this effort and push to fix it, or you don't get to complain about it ever again. You just have to stop, because it doesn't work that way. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. And I think this was a great stance for Blizzard to take. It's really unfortunate for this one guy that didn't think he was doing anything wrong. But with that said,
he knew.
I mean,
it's not the first time he's been banned. It's not the first time that this
let's just say he's not happy about it.
Right, he's definitely not happy about it. And so I don't want to go too deep into it, but my whole thing is like, if you want a one trick, that's fine. But if you're doing bad, switch.
100% agree. Or just go into quick play. Like, nobody's reporting you in quick play.
Right. Here's the thing, though. If he was doing well and people were just reporting him because they know his name, Steve-O, that's who it was. If they reporting him because they know his name and like it's the meme to report him, and like they're like, oh, Symmetra's not good here, but he's actually doing well and getting reported, that's where the line is I think, starts to shift the other way. But I don't know the details of it, so I'm not going to comment any further on it. I'm just putting that out there that like I don't think like it shouldn't just like one tricking shouldn't be banned. It's one tricking to the detriment of your entire team.
Yeah, like people still need to just like when you're in comp and the symmetric locks up on attack, right? Like that's not license for you to complain and report somebody. That's not what this is. You have to let him try, right? Like I think that's a very good point to bring up. Like he gets to play as hero if he wants, but this is a game about switching and trying to counter and make things work. And there's a reason you don't lock your hero at the beginning when you pick him for the whole round. You know, that it's so that you can have the ability to switch. And when you go against the spirit of the game and you don't switch despite the results, that's when I think this stuff comes up.
100%. Last thing that we'll talk about for today is that Blizzard World live on PTR. So go play it, have fun on it. I played it one match at BlizzCon. It was a pretty cool map. I didn't get to like go explore it. I was more playing with Moira, but should be a fun map. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Anything else, Beth?
I think that's it for the time being.
All right.
Another episode we thought would go pretty short,
but ended up being one of the longer ones.
and then it happened.
Yeah, we're almost at your hard stop. But that's going to be it, guys. Remember that you can always check out highnoonpodcast.com for all the links. Make sure that two most important links. The most important link right now is that you go to our Twitter and look at that pinned tweet, go to the giveaway, enter there, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, all that stuff is going to be on that link. If you're unsure where that is, go over to @HighNoonPodcast on Twitter. All that stuff is there. In order to help us tremendously, you can go over to the iTunes page and leave a phenomenal 5-star review, just like JMan0706 did. It was entitled Fantastic, Entertaining, and Informative. I've been listening to this podcast since its launch. Happy 2-year anniversary of listening. And I have to say it's one of the most well-done and thorough Overwatch podcasts out there. Deathblow and Blevins provide fantastic commentary. Their passion for the game and for podcasting is extremely evident from the moment you start listening. All in all, it's one of the most entertaining podcasts related to Overwatch. Watching the podcast grow has been so awesome. I'm looking forward to continued progress and fantastic content. J-Man, thank you so much. Thanks,
How are
man.
you not in the Discord? How do we not know who you are if you've been listening since day one? That seems crazy to me. Stop by and say hello.
If you're an
We
old
love you
timer, let
already.
us know. Throw it in there. Yeah, and if you're an old timer that has only listened to us on iTunes or only listened to us wherever, hop on into the Discord. Even if you just want to say hi and say, hey, I've been listening for a while. It always touches us. It always tickles us pink when we see that. It's really kind of crazy that we're getting a lot of first time, long time, like unironically, like people are actually saying
Right.
it. I'm like, oh, we made it, Mom. I made it.
And there's actually another review here. I'll get through it. It's quick. It's a 3-star review from Anonymous Dragon 221134. It's about the audio. Last episode was really bad. That's why we pulled the trigger to purchase the microphone. Great podcast. I respect that you guys made a podcast for Overwatch. Need to work on the audio quality. Last episode, the sound quality was super bad. It hurts my ears. It hurt my ears too while we were recording it. We knew it wasn't good. We were super disappointed in it. That's why we made the effort. Our apologies. If they've continued we've said this before, but if they continue from this point forward, do not hesitate to reach out to us, tweet at us, tell us in Discord. We've got to know we completely agree with you all. It's 100% unacceptable. We're doing whatever we can to fix it. We're not the best audio guys, though.
Yeah. I think that we have it fixed now, but please let us know if it's not. But yeah, definitely the iTunes reviews help us so much. They keep us up in the top right now. They've obviously, our other stuff has helped us as well, but the iTunes reviews are the biggest way for us to get noticed in our main medium, which is iTunes. But Discord is going to be the best place to get a hold of us and to get a hold of us in real time. We are both super active in the Discord. All of our mods also super active in the Discord. And really everyone. We got pro players in there. They chime in time to time. All the community members and such are in there. And we also, we honestly, I don't know, I can't speak for the other podcasts, but we really do take your guys' suggestions to heart. Like most of the segments, or at least a lot of the segments and stuff from the show has come from either actual listener suggestions and actual listener like contributions and stuff. So
how many times have you heard us mention Thornrain and A Smith? Those are just guys that like the show. Join
and
the
Overwatch
Discord.
today.
Yeah, Overwatch Today just had phenomenal insight. We're funny, and we just guys that we really like, just fans that we really like hanging out with. And now we're going to be bringing A Smith on the show. I'm really excited about that. I can't imagine it's too long before Thornrain joins us for something. It's a phenomenal little community we built. It exceeds my everything about this podcast has exceeded our expectations going into it. So we just love getting any and all feedback from you guys. Never hesitate.
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up with the normal outro, guys. Remember to head over to highnoonpodcast.com. All the links there. Go to our Twitter specifically. Enter that giveaway. I want to give you your favorite Overwatch League jersey and this awesome Overwatch World Cup pin. I hate pins, but I like this one a lot. I'm keeping one for myself. I'm also going to win. No, I can't win. I'm disqualified from winning.
I'm not, though. Yes, I am.
Yeah, Deathblow also is disqualified. So, highnoonpodcast.com, do the Twitter. Just do yourself a favor and join the Discord. Like, it's so fun. Like, you got it.
There's a leave button. If you hate it, just peace out. But I don't think
leave
you
it.
will.
But a lot of people don't. A lot of people stick around and have fun. And also, if you're listening to this on iTunes or YouTube or whatever, head on over to the Twitch channel and hit the follow button. We have a lot of fun. We've been having some really active chats, a lot of new people coming in, and a lot of really active and fun chats. So head over to twitch.tv/highnoonpodcast to do that. But huge shout outs to Matt Chirino, who has sponsored our SoundCloud. So all of you SoundCloud listener, I know you guys are out there. You can always thank Matt Chirino for that. Huge thanks to Adam Hoek for providing the awesome outro music that you're about to hear. Just huge shout outs to A. Smith for everything. He books all of our guests and all that good stuff. And huge shout outs to all of the listeners, the Discord people, the Patreon patrons, the Twitch subscribers. We do not have a subscribe button. Just huge thanks to everyone and all the guests and everything everywhere. But that's going to be it, guys. I think I thanked everyone and did everything. That is going to be it for Deathblow. I am the Blevins. And remember, guys, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Toronto Tempest winning season 2, calling it right now.